Back when this country was still mostly wilderness, most everything that settlers needed they either had to make or hunt for themselves. There was little manufacturing here in the mid-1700s. Just how they got their food and made their clothing back then is something visitors are experiencing this summer at Fort Ticonderoga, where, as our Jack LeDuc shows us, history is coming alive every day.
Depending on who was in possession of Fort Ticonderoga in the mid-18th century, French or English flags were being raised and lowered over the star-shaped citadel as it changed hands in battles. Although there were more Native Americans around than anyone else then, time was changing, as France and England were shuttling in troops to fight in the French and Indian War, also known as the 7 Years' War. Now, Fort Ticonderoga allows you to go behind the scene of that period to get a first-hand look at how things were done over 250 years ago.
We take 1 year at a time, focus our research, and delve really into our very specific history and a specific regiment that served here at Fort Ticonderoga. So this year, Jack, we have focused our research on 1755, which is the first year of Fort Carillon, which later became Fort Ticonderoga, first year of its construction, and the Languedoc regiment that served here that year. And so what our guests see this year is that very specific story.
It was a handmade way of life here at the fort. Skilled craftspeople now allow the public to touch, feel, and see how things were done before a mechanical industry replaced the artistry of the individual.
We're actually building shoes that's going to be used by our staff members. So you can see a French soldier's shoe in progress right here. I've done the first steps of building the insole, pulling or lasting the upper part of the shoe down over that while it's wet. It's dried in place. I've stitched the inseam, and now I'm going to start working to build the rest of the shoe, all the stuff that goes on top. As much as we possibly can, we equip our staff with only items that we hand make here at the fort, whether it's clothing, whether it's equipment, whether it's footwear.
As well as soldiers' shoes, his uniform took harsh punishment during his tour of duty in the North American wilderness. The hands that stitched it together knew their craft well, all done without a sewing machine.
No sewing machine, indeed. I find, personally, that is not much of a trial when it comes to constructing 18th century clothing, because of course there was no sewing machine when the clothes that these are based on were first created. And so the ways in which they are made are very efficient for hand sewing.
Like the uniform makers before them, these tailors take time to make sure the clothing fits a soldier and he's comfortable in them. But the attire is still hot and bulky. A soldier got one uniform a year, which he wore every day in sweltering heat or freezing temperatures. Nearby were gardens on the fort property to supplement a soldier's daily rations he was issued to give him the nutrients he needed to stay healthy. Every general knew that an army runs on its stomach, and during the French and Indian War here at Fort Ticonderoga, it was pea soup that filled many a belly.
The gardens were extremely important for their diet. A soldier's ration, for the most part, consists of either flour or bread, and then some kind of salted meat, and then mostly dried peas or rice. Those rations, as they are, lack in vitamins.
Frequently, the soldiers would pool their daily ration and make a thick pea soup, including fresh vegetables from the garden, keeping them healthy. When the French were here, each company had its own kitchen.
When they first get here, they set up a flying camp, and one of the first things they would have done is built their company camp kitchens, which were just outside their camp. They dug each company about a 9-foot trench, and they dug in the side of that trench about 4 fire boxes. You feed the fire down below with wood, and you see the flames shooting out the top, and you actually place your kettle right on top here.
But in 1759, the British took Fort Ticonderoga from the French. By 1760, the British had gained all of North America from the French, ending New France's struggle for North America. Next summer, the living history reenactors will return the fort to the American Continental troops from Pennsylvania who were there in 1776. The troops will be enforcing lines of the old defenses built by the French. Visitors can discover how that was done, along with seeing how the goods for the troops were handmade and distributed to them. For Mountain Lake Journal, I'm Jack LeDuc in Ticonderoga.